Hey guys, so I am getting ready to go for a night shift. This is going to be my fifth night shift. So today I want to try and do something different. I want to take you guys along with me as I go for my night shift. So I'm going to try and vlog, obviously, as much as I can, but also in the meantime also maintaining confidentiality. It is 5:45, so I'm going to leave the house at 6:30 because I walk to work. It's not far off. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my shower, and then afterwards I'm going to get ready. So unfortunately I did not prepare any food. I need to go shopping. So on my way to work I'm going to grab McDonald's. Don't be like me. So yeah guys, let me get ready and then I will see you guys at work. So before we start this video and before anybody comments, no, you are not allowed to have nails on. I've already been told off. So anyway, they came off the following day. So the first thing that I normally do when I come in, I check if any of my patients are due any medication. Now in A&E, there's no specific set of times when patients are due medication. So I like to check if any of the medication are outstanding. Thereafter, I like to take my own patient's sets of obs. So although I have the assistance of healthcare assistants, however, I like to personally prefer to do a set of obs on my patients. So that way I know what their new score is and what state they're really in, you know, so I know what I'm dealing with. And any patients of mine who are diabetic, I like to go in and check their sugar levels or glucose levels prior as well, so that I know whether they require insulin or we need to commence them on a sliding scale or a DKA depending on their ketones as well. So like I've mentioned before, in A&E, there's no specific time for any sort of medication administration. Any time is medication time, okay, depending on when the patient came in. So at this point in time, I'm preparing some antibiotics for a patient. So obviously there's various types of antibiotics depending on the patient's allergies, etc, 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 and also what you're actually treating them for. So basically here I am showing you guys the difference between the two drawable needles. Obviously there is more, but these are the most common used. Okay, so when I started working, it was like, what needle do I use and when? Do you know what I mean? But then obviously as I started working, getting the hang of it, I just remembered that the all pink one is the one that I'm going to use, because that one, the length and diameter of it makes it easy to move liquids into and out of vials, so it makes it much more easier. But let me not bore you guys with details. I just thought I should throw that in there as well. And then, like I said, in order to mix the antibiotics, you are most likely going to be using water for injection. Water for injection is mostly used when diluting antibiotics, okay, or mixing antibiotics, whichever way you want to say it. So I'm just using 20 ml of water for injection in order to mix my antibiotics. So I want to show you guys a bit of a hack, okay, so how to draw up medication with actually having to not pull the back of the syringe, okay, and the whole thing is all about pressure, how much pressure you are applying into the vial and how much pressure is going to be pushed out of the vial. Okay, so that's just a bit of a trick that I've learned while I was a nursing student. And then obviously prior to administering the IV, guys, always make sure that you do push out any sort of air, because you do not want that to go into your patients. So obviously next, guys, I'm preparing my tray to go and perform venipuncture. For those who are not familiar with this is a procedure which obviously you take blood from the vein. As obviously I'm showing you guys the 3 different blood vacutainer that we normally use. This is basically for routine blood, so it's 3 colors. The way I remembered is bleed your patient. So bleed blue, your yellow, and patient purple. So that's how it follows chronologically. And obviously we take a VBG, venous blood gas, as well, because the results is much more quicker from a venous blood gas than the results of the bloods returning from the lab. And also, guys, as this patient came in with query sepsis, we are going to be taking blood cultures. So I'm getting my blood cultures bottles ready as well. And the way I remembered which bottle comes first is blue and then pink. Okay, so boys before girls, so blue before pink. Just some sort of a thing just to remember how to go about taking it. But obviously, as you get the hang of it, you will know. So once my tray has been prepared, guys, I'm going to go ahead and prime my line. So you always want to do this prior to obviously administering any sort of IV medication. Prime your line. Okay, and then when that's done, guys, I'm going to obviously send off the bloods off to the lab. So once again, guys, I'm here administering more medication. This time around, I'm going to be administering IV fluids. Now, I do want to show you guys the difference between the 2 common IV fluids used, obviously, which is Hartmann's, okay, as well as sodium chloride. So there is not much difference. However, Hartmann contains more ions than sodium chloride, guys. So there are different uses for both fluids depending on the medical purpose of the patient, okay? But once again, I'm not going to bore you guys with some details. When you start working and you come across these fluids, you will know what the different type of fluids are for. In addition to that, guys, I'm also going to be preparing paracetamol IV. Okay, so when you're preparing paracetamol standard, guys, you need to take the patient's weight into consideration. If a patient weighs less than 50 kilograms, guys, you will be administering 0.5 grams. So 500 milligrams, not 1000 milligrams. Whereas if somebody is over 50 kilograms, you can go ahead and administer the whole 1 gram. So obviously, as I prepared the IV fluids, I'm going to be using a infusion pump. So I just want to show you guys the difference between the 2. So the first one is obviously an infusion pump for insulin or any sort of other, you know, infusion. Whereas this one that I'm showing you guys is what I'm going to be using, because you can obviously set it according to how many hours you want the infusion to run through. So it's an, you know, just an IV set. You'll get the hang of it. Next, guys, I'm on the phone, obviously. I'm just handing over to family, relatives, giving them an update, obviously with the consent of the patient, and documenting that. Documentation, guys, very, very important. Once again, more medication, and more medication. So I'm administering some Oromorph. I know that in some trusts, Oromorph is a CD for some reason, but obviously in the trust that I work in, Oromorph is 1 person's signature only, okay? So you can administer this medication with 1 signature. I know some trusts require you to have 2 signatures, but obviously, once again, it depends on the trust. So next, guys, I'm just updating all the nursing notes. Once again, guys, in nursing, if it has not been documented, it has not been done. That's the general rule. So I'm just making sure all my documentation is up to date in regards to whatever I've done for that specific patient. Thereafter, guys, I'm obviously going to go ahead and go to the vending machine, get myself some Sprite, okay, just to keep me going through the night. Advisable to drink water, but not tonight, okay? So basically, we had a patient who came in with not passing urine for a couple of days, so I'm going to go ahead and do a bladder scan. If you've come across a bladder scan, this is how it normally looks like, okay? So obviously there is the OptiLube that you're going to use while performing the bladder scan, and obviously the probe as well. So normally this is supposed to indicate how much is inside the bladder, but obviously I'm not really doing a scan in front of you guys, but normally it's going to show how much urine is inside the bladder, if there is any inside. Now this patient had over 500 mils of urine in the bladder, so the doctors did advise to put in a catheter. So I'm just going ahead preparing my catheter trolley. So in regards to obviously catheters, there is different types of lengths that you're going to use. Most common 12 or 14, one of the two. So I'm going to go ahead and put 12 and 14 both on the trolley, and then obviously I will evaluate what length I'm going to use once I get there and I see what I'm working with. So next, guys, I'm going to another area in the department, which is the red area, because we've got a patient who tested positive for COVID. So I'm going to hand over to the other area to move the patient from one area to another area, okay? Thereafter, I'm finally going on my break, guys. It is 4 o'clock in the morning. I like to take my break between 3:30 and 4. They normally always have to say, Belinda, go on your break, go on your break, go on break. Because I like to take a late break, because that way it's like psychological, isn't it? Once you know that you go on your break at 4 o'clock, you come back at 4:30, and then literally you've got 2.5 hours before your shift comes to an end, or rather before the day staff come in. I like to have a late break, and obviously our break is half an hour, so it's not like the wards where you're going to go and sleep or take a nap. No, you are just going to sit in the staff room or wherever you're going to sit for half an hour, and you're going to take your break, and then that's that. So once again, like I told you guys, I did pick up a Mackie D's on the way. Not the best option, especially at this time of the morning, but hey ho, we move. So once my break is done, guys, obviously returning back to the area that I'm working in the A&E department. Once again, more medication. This time again, I'm administering antibiotics, but this time it's TAZ antibiotics rather than Comox. And once again, preparation the same as before. I'm using water for injection. Now, depending on the trust that you work in, I have been doing agency nursing, and in some trusts they do dilute the TAZ in 100 ml saline. Once again, it depends on the trust, so I can give it bolus. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing. Has been staying in for quite some time, we once again do administer medication. This time around, I'm going to be giving oral medication. I think this night I haven't been giving much oral medication, mainly IVs, but this time around I'm going to give some oral medication.